Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with author of the Snows of War book series, Katherine Kruger. These days, she is a writer, wife, and has worked multiple jobs that have given her a variety of experiences. She achieved her dream of getting to publish a book far sooner than she expected. This was all done despite a number of hurdles ranging from being discharged from the Navy to learning that she has Aspergers. She didn't find out until she was an adult later in life. We get into this narrative of finding out about her diagnosis and so much more. Enjoy this interview.
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, I also, just so you know up front, one of the things that's probably unique about me too is that I have a son that's on the autism spectrum, and he is 17 years old, so I've been living this for a decent portion of my life.
I didn't find out till I was 19.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's interesting, you know, and that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you. I mean, I interview authors and all of that too. I find your story very interesting, and I think that's just kind of a part of our modern world we're living in right now. So talk to me a little bit about how this happened, how you got this diagnosis late in life.
It's honestly still a bit of a mystery to me. My parents knew about it since I was little, and I didn't suspect it until I was about maybe 14. When I started hearing more about it in school. But I kind of wanted to deny it because up until learning more about it and meeting my husband who also has it, I always associated it with being a negative thing, a debilitating thing, and didn't really want to be either associated with it or just, kind of deny it outright. And then I found out January 2019 after I had been kicked out of the Navy because I failed the entrance run. So I was living at home with my parents. I didn't have a job at the time. So things were kind of, I wouldn't say tense because it wasn't like an overly negative experience, but I was kind of just beating myself up a lot about it. But I had a tendency to kind of just stare at nothing whenever I accompanied my mom to the grocery store. So we kind of got talking about it, and she kind of blew up about it, in saying that, you have Aspergers syndrome. That's why you do a lot of things you do. And I wanted to deny it. And I looked more into it, and I realized I can't hide from this anymore. So I met my husband online about a year later. We got talking about it several months after we met each other. And he admitted that he had it. I admitted that I had it. And we started to kind of discover that it's not a terrible, terrible thing to have. I mean, there are downsides to it. I do still stare at nothing sometimes. I have a really hard time interacting with people because I don't always understand what they're trying to say to me. But I mean, this might come across as arrogant, but I know I'm very smart. I know I retain information a lot better than most people, and it's part of why I've been writing since I was in third grade. That was the one fixation that stuck, and over the last it's going to be 4 years come January, I've learned how to harness it and make it productive. I mean, I don't know of anybody else who can say that they write for more than a few hours a day. Like, I can write for a few hours a day and not feel like I'm tired or, well, sometimes I do get tired of it and burn out from it. But I feel like I can keep going. Sometimes there are nights where I have to force myself to stop because I feel like I can keep going.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say was I'm just kind of ingesting, your story, and I'm thinking about Miles. My son Miles, who's 17, is on the spectrum, and technically what he has is he has an extra long piece of genetic material on his 15th chromosome, which led to developmental delays. He didn't speak for a few years after he was born. He had issues walking and with other things that are pretty rote for most human beings. But I mean, he's wonderful. I mean, his light shines so bright. And the thing about Miles is that I've always been the kind of person that's really been like, you can do anything you want. I didn't stop letting him learn how to ride a bike and do all kinds of things. And I think I'm thinking about your story, and there is a lot of fear with parents of having that label, special needs or autism or Aspergers or autism spectrum. But at the end of the day, I think there's two sides to that. All of the early therapeutic benefits are huge, and they're very helpful for children. But also I'm trying to think from your perspective, since you didn't think that you had that, you operated as though you were neurotypical and everything was totally fine. Do you think that benefited you now that you look in hindsight, that you were just kind of out there with the rest of everybody else without there being any kind of label or any kind of treatment that was different?
I'm inclined to think so. I know why it was hidden from me, because I was weird when I was very little. Looking back on it, it cost me friendships. It led to me becoming very much a loner, especially when I entered middle school and became a lot more quiet and a lot less, I wouldn't say destructive, but I guess emotionally destructive to other people. But it runs in my family. I know where it comes from. And a lot of relatives I have use it as a way to excuse poor behavior, poor actions, and just, kind of destroy the family. And I understand why my parents didn't want me to become like that. I think they were afraid of me weaponizing it, because when I was little, that was definitely a real possibility. My husband, on the other hand, thinks that it shouldn't have been hidden from me. I should have known when I was more mature about it, which was probably around, I'd say 8th grade. I was starting to, be a little bit better about interacting with people. But I've always seen it as a double-edged sword. I understand why it was kept from me, and I did gradually begin to function a bit better, especially as I entered high school. And both of my parents were pretty surprised in 9th grade when, without any prompt from anybody, I joined our JROTC program. I joined our Masterminds Club, which is our trivia team. I carried our trivia team my senior year, because after I left, they started not doing so well. I even took them to DC for 3 geography bowls. So, and that was all before I knew. Up until then, I thought I was just smart, overly smart, and there was nothing else wrong.
So you had mentioned the Navy. What made you gravitate towards the military?
My grandfather was a Marine. I wouldn't say it is a family tradition, but I know I've got a lot of military history within my family. And I've never fully understood why I ended up gravitating towards the military. I've had an interest in World War II specifically since I was in 6th grade. That's another thing that hasn't changed over the years. And I guess that's what I decided I wanted to do. I didn't think I would be able to. College didn't interest me. I didn't want to go into life with thousands of dollars in debt and try to go into something that probably wasn't going to reward me. And I originally came from upstate New York, and there's nothing to do up there. There's not many jobs that you can get up there. Most of it is like very part-time, and I figured it was I wouldn't say quick and easy, because nothing about the Navy was quick. But I figured it would be an easy way for me to travel, because that was another thing that I really wanted to do, was travel. And I thought, why not? My occupational specialty was going to be design, media and design for their like everything from, shirts, recruitment ads, stuff like that. I would be training in D.C., and I already knew the area from going there for 3 geography bowls, and I loved the area. So I thought, why not? It's a place that I already know, and thought that it would be an amazing opportunity for me to genuinely do something that I loved.
Who have been people that you've looked up to in your life? Who would you consider a hero, someone that made you excel and do the things that you've done?
Oh, there's my husband. There was my 6th grade English teacher, whom I've been trying to get back into contact with now that I've actually published a book. Because I remember one of the last things that she told me was, I want to see your books get past magazine life, because I did write short stories for her, and they were all about the length of a sizable magazine, and she said that she wanted to see them get past it. And I believe I even said, because I have a physical copy right here, I even said in the dedications of White Raven that I can still remember her telling me that she wanted me to move past magazine length work, and here it is. So that was being able to write that down and hoping that she would see it, felt really good.
What did it feel like when you actually finally published your book? I mean, after a long road, you obviously love writing. Did this happen before or after you found out about the diagnosis?
I published my book last July. Oh, no, this July, actually. Holy crap. Feels like it's been a lot longer. So that was 3 years after I found out. I knew I wanted to write and publish as my living. And I had always been told it's a risky business. It's no guarantee that you're gonna, you're not gonna be a New York Times bestseller right off the bat. It's very rare that happens. But I went for it anyway. I mean, I do have a part-time job right now where I am making decent money, and I can still write on the side. And I have learned that, you need to build up a good library, because if you only have one book out there, a lot of people assume that you're just writing to cross something off of your bucket list and that you're not serious about your craft. And I have seen that before. I mean, even more challenging is the fact that I decided to go for self-publishing. And I understand, I was always told, oh, it's expensive, it's extremely risky. Well, it is expensive, but it's not exactly bank-breaking, as I've learned from my own experience.
I know in the bio it said that you were diagnosed with autism, but is it specifically Aspergers? Is it spectrum? What is it exactly?
I was told specifically it is Aspergers.
Okay, it's Aspergers. So I'm curious, do you work with any, anybody in that community? Are you a part of that community of, working with younger kids or being a part of anything to kind of get a better handle or to deal with it, or how are you doing that?
I have not really made an attempt to reach out to that community. I've met other people who do have it, aside from my husband, and it affects everybody in a very different way, to the point where sometimes you don't fully understand what they're going through. Like, I don't have the same touch sensitivity that my husband has. Like, he needs specific clothing or else he's uncomfortable. Whereas with me, I can wear just about anything and be comfortable. So that's something, I mean, on one hand I do understand it, but on the other hand I don't. I've seen some people say that they wish they could wear headphones at work to cancel out sounds, whereas I think more logically, and even my husband explained this to me, in certain work environments that can be dangerous. So I don't fully agree with that, but I do understand it. So it's also an issue of, I still don't fully know how to communicate with other people, even if they do have it, and that's something that my husband and I have been working on together. He's known since he was 14 because his older brother brought it up and suspected it. And that's why he's been, trying to help me as best he can, because I found out so late. But no, we really haven't tried to get involved. And I've seen ads for stuff like that online. A lot of them want experience. There really aren't a lot of places in the area where I live that would guarantee that. Because we're about an hour away from Philadelphia, and honestly, I wouldn't want to make the commute into Philadelphia. I have no experience with city driving, so that wouldn't.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, right now, after everything that you've been through and that you know, and kind of absorbing the fact that you've had this your whole life and weren't told till later on, anybody out there that might be a parent in a special needs world, or anybody out there that might be in a situation where your parents were, where they didn't say anything, what would be your advice to parents out there? I know your situation specific, but overall, would you say that it would be better to be transparent and open as early and as often as possible about it? Or what would be your advice?
Honestly, that's a good question, because my husband and I do want kids, and we understand there's a very high possibility that we're going to pass this on to them. We're pretty much in agreement that when they are old enough to understand, we'll tell them. Because we don't want to say it too young where they're not going to understand and misunderstand it for a while. But we also don't want to say it too late. Like, we don't want it to be an accident that they find out. And it's actually one reason why we're both opting to, when we're ready to homeschool, because we feel like they're going to need that individual attention to hone their talents and learn how to wrangle the more negative sides of it. I mean, we're not going to, cut off contact with other kids, but I just feel like that's what they specifically would need, because honestly, that's what my husband and I needed. He was homeschooled.
Yeah, no, that I understand. So let's get into the good business here of you and your book. Where can people pick it up and get a copy or read it?
Right now, it is available on Amazon. You can find it on a bunch of other book sites. I went through Ingram Spark for the physical copy, and they actually did a pretty good job with the physical copy. I was worried it was going to come out all wonky, but I got the physical release, and it looks a lot better than I was hoping. So I actually just finished up a free promotion, which did pretty well for the Kindle. There is an audiobook version, and I think I'm more proud of the audiobook than I am of the electronic or physical copy, because I got an audition from probably the best narrator I possibly could have found for my book. Like, he put so much energy into it that I smiled the whole way listening to the chapters that I was sent. So even though it's a little bit more on the expensive side, unless you have like the free trials and stuff like that, I work with it, but at the same time I don't fully know how it works. I'm so bad with numbers. I know it's a stereotype that people with autism are good with math and technology, and here's me. I have the mind of a 65-year-old when it comes to stuff like that. Like, sometimes I feel like I was born in the wrong time period. So
yeah,
the audiobook's about like $20 if you don't have any of the Prime memberships, stuff like that. Ebook I lowered that to about $5 a few months ago, and the print I had to keep the price pretty high because I get charged for printing. It's not a super high amount, but I do get charged for it.
Well, that's great. Catherine, thank you for opening up. I really appreciate you putting your story out there. Good luck with everything as we move forward. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, I do have an ebook exclusive novella that should be coming out in a few weeks. I just have to get proofreading is almost done, and I almost have the final cover.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, and music around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.